Mainly, this is not a review video, this is not even an unboxing video, this isn't a first try video. I tried recording that video and then wound up recording this video instead. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome to the chaos. I do all things music related on here, from audio engineering style content to production and songwriting challenges to just talking about music and musician life. But the reality is that today's video kind of has nothing to do with music. I mean, it's audio engineering content, but not the musical kind, because today I am talking about a new microphone, slash two microphones actually, microphone kit thing that I have purchased that has nothing to do with music. I'm not really going to use these for musical recording ever, I don't think, but it has to do with content creation. And that is these mics that I have on me here. And I've got both mics attached at the same time. So we got a little lapel over here, and then we've got this, which is actually the same thing that lapel is going into. Just this one has the lapel plugged in, and this one is the actual body of the mic transmitter, which also has a microphone in it. Because today I'm going to talk to you about the Rode Wireless Pro, which I recently purchased and have used a couple of times and have experimented with and have fallen into some difficulties with and had a little falling out with. So I actually previously recorded a first try video using these microphones, and I used just the microphones for the audio of that video. And unfortunately, I should have spent some more time playing around with them before I did an entire video with them, because I made some mistakes in terms of setting them up in that video and the audio came out terribly, which is what you get when you just don't take the time to do things properly. Anyway, it wasn't that bad. I could have rescued the audio, it would have been okay, but I decided that actually what I wanted to do instead was to reflect on the things I'd learned from that video and then learned from a couple of other videos I have recorded with these microphones since, and having really extensive play with it today to actually get settings right on these to make my life easier in future, to figure out what I actually need to get out of these microphones and where there might be little quirks to them that could cause me any issues, and fixing those little quirks. That's this video. So quickly, first of all, we'll do an unboxing style video. So I'll put little clips in of all the different parts that I talk about here, but this is what you get in the box when you get the Rode Wireless Pros. The receiver, and you get two transmitters, which I'm currently wearing. The transmitters have a mic built into the body of them that you can use, but you also get two separate lapel mics, and you get the accessories necessary for clipping these on and putting the little windshield on like I have on here. On top of that, you also get a full-blown windshield, and this is more of a pop shield or just a general mic shield, noise shield. It's not so much a windshield, but you actually get a proper windshield for your lapel mic, and you get the little fuzzy windshield for the body mic as well. First thing I want to mention, these are actually quite tricky to clip on, and initially I didn't understand how they clipped on, but you have to look really close and you'll see that there are actually little notches on the windshield itself, and if you look on where it's actually supposed to clip on over the microphone, there are little flattened sides, and then there are some arrows pointing in a direction to tell you which way to twist, because you want to line up the sort of notches on this with the right part of that and then turn it to lock it in place. I just angrily attempted to smoosh it on, and until I noticed for the first time today that there were little arrows on there, which is good because it means that then there's no danger of it coming off. Then you've got something that apparently I've lost one of these off the actual, so it's good that they give you spares of these, because apparently they're really easy to accidentally lose. I've already accidentally lost one. But the lapel mics have these little rings on them, these little nuts, bolts? Is that a nut or a bolt? It doesn't really matter. I think that's a nut. The point is that they are a locking mechanism. So if you look, there's also a screw thread on the jack, that's the word I'm looking for, on the jack of the microphone, and then on the jack input on the transmitter body. It screws into place on here and it screws into place on there. I would suggest holding the body of the transmitter and screwing that on. First time I went to do this, I stupidly went to screw this instead and then got myself all tangled in the wires. These are really handy and really good as long as you actually use them right, because I actually had an incident. I was recording content with James and we were using these in the studio. James managed to knock his transmitter off multiple times before he decided to just zip it away in his pocket. Had this not been locked in place, obviously he would have also yanked that out. And at one point, actually, he plugged his microphone back into his transmitter himself, and I hadn't shown him that there was a locking mechanism on them, and so he hadn't actually plugged it all the way in, and so we lost the audio of his microphone completely for that, because it was enough of the way in that this microphone didn't pick up instead, but not so far in that this microphone was actually doing its job. So I would say these locking mechanisms, because I've seen in some reviews people saying that they didn't really feel like this was necessary. I think this is very necessary if you're actually going to use this as a lapel mic in most of the settings where a lapel mic is really necessary. Then you get a couple of other important cables. So you get a cable for a jack to jack connection for connecting up with, mostly if you're connecting up with your cameras is how you're going to be using that. You get a lightning to USB-C cable, relatively useless these days, let's be honest, but hey. And you get a USB-C to USB-C cable. And then you also get a longer charging USB-C to USB-C cable. Then you get a couple of accessories that I'm not that bothered about. One being a cloth for cleaning them with if you want to keep them nice and shiny. But the other you get is maybe somewhat useful. I'm not sure how useful I find this. This clip that's magnetic, and you get a magnet. And basically you can slide that onto the clip on the transmitter. Now obviously this would be quite useful if you're wearing the kind of clothing where if I were to be trying to clip this up here to this, that would not be practical at all. A lapel mic wants to be down on your chest, right? And this wants to be kind of down low on your chest, although a lot of people don't use this microphone like that at all, and I'll address that in a moment as well. If you couldn't easily clip this somewhere on your clothing and you needed to, then having that magnet is kind of useful, I guess. But I honestly don't think it's that useful. Those are just what's in the box and some initial thoughts about things that are in the box. I've just accidentally clipped those two magnets together and I cannot be bothered fussing about trying to unclip them now. Let's get on to more about the actual microphones themselves. So a lot of people get these microphones and other similar microphones like this. I've seen other similar of these wireless lapel mic setups by other brands. Like there's the DJI one, I've forgotten what all of the others are called, but there are multiple brands out there selling versions of this basically. This just happens to be the Rode one that I have picked out, and I select it for various reasons. One being that it came with the least number of ridiculous accessories I didn't need. And I don't like waste. Then there were also some practical reasons for why I picked it. But honestly, a lot of these models are relatively interchangeable, I would say. Quite a few of them have similar quality of audio coming out of them. They've got similar specific specs in terms of a lot of them. Like one of the pros of this is that there is an onboard recording on the transmitter, as well as the recording that you get out of your receiver. So I've done a few tests earlier this morning based on some things that I encountered with using these the first couple of times, because I did just connect them up to my camera the first time I used them. And I only briefly looked at the app and any settings before I did that. And I had the gain on the microphone set to the auto gain, and I just clicked camera on the output gain options for the receiver. So I'm just going to go over the app that I'm talking about now. So there's an app called Rode Central that is designed for you to use with these microphones. And one of those is to actually set settings in terms of the output mode on your receiver or setting the gain on your transmitters. There are certain options that aren't available to you on the phone version of the app. We're looking at the desktop version of the app because that's where you get access to everything. You have control over everything. And so let's just have a quick look at the settings and the audio for the receiver, because on the left-hand side, you can see there is a section that's called channel routing. And then you've got options. You've got split, merged, safety, time code. I haven't bothered worrying about the safety and the time code ones currently. If you have it set to split, then you still get each signal goes left and right. If you've got only one mic plugged in, for instance, if you have mic 1 plugged in, that's being sent left. I did record some footage the other day where I recorded direct to the camera and I didn't change this setting and I still had it set to split and I was only using one microphone and all of my audio is just panned to the left. But that was easy to fix because I was putting that audio into Logic anyway to mix, so I just changed the channel from stereo to mono and boom. So yeah, if you're recording to camera and you're not gonna you don't want to be able to mix the two microphone signals separately, you should just have it in the merged mode, because then everything is just going to get sent through as a normal stereo audio file with both voices equally on each side. But if you're doing something like I'm doing right now, where I'm recording into Logic to have my audio separate, because I specifically want to have separate audio for this microphone and this microphone so I can switch between the two, then you want it set to split, because then it's going to send one microphone signal out the left and the other microphone signal out the right, or in this case, one out of input 1, what would then be input 1 on Logic, and one out of what is input 2 on Logic. Anywho, point being, I wanted to have those separate audio files, so I have recorded it like that. I could have also just recorded the split signal onto here and gotten a stereo file where each side was a different mic, and then split that up later to then mix the audio differently. That would just be more of a faff Where I wouldn't do that, where I would just connect it up to my camera or my phone, most likely would be when I was just connecting it up to my phone. On the phone, I found that no matter what I set the output gain on the receiver to, it came out the same, which is bizarre. I don't get how that works. So I then went in and I changed, because within this app, you also then have the option to click on your actual microphones and change the gain on them as well. So when I changed the gain on the microphone, that did change the actual output onto this. So I also tested my camera audio and set it up so that I can just plug the receiver straight into my camera and get good audio out of it. And actually, I'm going to probably fiddle with that a little bit more, because I think I could do with dropping either the gain level of my mic down a little bit more, or dropping the gain level going into the camera down a little bit more again still, because I noticed that it wasn't clipping, but there were these weird artifacts that I was getting. I was actually getting them on the Logic file as well, slightly, when I played it back, but nowhere near as often. And I think it actually was the case that the gain going into Logic was way quieter. It's a weird one, because it's not actually the audio clipping, but it seems to be those higher frequency moments, because it was very specifically on the S's, or when I was doing a very plosive t sound. When the gain was set a bit too high, those were causing some sort of weird artifact thing to happen. But I did notice that it seems to be because I had the gain set that a little bit lower on the Logic file, that it has still happened every now and then, but it's way less pronounced when it did happen, and it's way less frequent. Which is interesting, because I actually ended up opting for a camera setting that is lower than the recommended one, because when you go in to the output gain mode and you select camera, you're then given the option to select your specific model of camera. So obviously I've gone in and I've set it to my 90D. It sets the output gain of the receiver to an appropriate level for your camera, and then it also tells you what you should set your camera settings to. So I went in and I set my camera settings to that level, and it looked to me, from how the levels looked on display, that was possibly going to be a bit too loud. So I recorded it in a little bit quieter than that, first of all. And then I recorded it in at the level they actually recommend. And I decided that I was right, that is ever so slightly too loud. And even at the level that I recorded at when I went in a bit lower, I would say it would have been better for me to go a little bit lower still, because I wasn't getting clipping and I wasn't getting distortion, but I was getting that weird artifact thing going on the higher frequencies. It definitely seems to be designed for people who are going to just plug this in and use that audio without doing any mixing. So they're not going to be then putting it into Logic and putting it through other plugins. And obviously you do generally want to not record in too hot if you're then going to add other plugins and stuff on later, because that's when you start lifting your gain up even higher. Which was one of the big things I had an issue with the very first time I used them, because I didn't set the gain on the microphones at all the first time I used them. I did an initial test before I did that first video, but the test I did, I didn't really speak at my normal speaking volume. I was sitting there in a room with someone else just quickly testing these microphones, and I should have just done a proper recording, but I didn't do that because I'm dumb. I didn't set the gain on the microphones. I was just using the auto gain feature on the microphones, the intuitive auto gain stuff. My audio didn't really come out that well, and even the audio that was recorded for my 32-bit float was still overall a bit too hot. Those are just some tips that I wanted to share of like stuff that I've encountered with these microphones already. If you're gonna like record straight into your camera or something like that, making sure that you've set everything well so that you're happy with the audio quality coming out of your camera, right? Because it is very handy to be able to just clip these onto your camera, plug them in, and just have the audio straight on there for like really simple sort of content. The kind of stuff where like if the audio isn't perfect, like if you're not going to take it off and mix it later because you want really, really good high quality audio, you just want a quick video. In those moments, it doesn't matter how good quality that audio is. It just needs to be audible, really, doesn't it? A lot of the time, I'm probably going to be using this for the kind of content where I am either making that content with another person and I really need both of us to have separate mics because we're moving around the room a lot, or where I'm making solo content but I'm moving around the room a lot. Because our main reason I got these was for filming content in the studio, especially where I'm doing something like I am showing you guys how I actually patch something out to go to separate pieces of gear, and I have to move around the room and do different things, right? It's hard enough having to move the camera around and deal with getting the camera angles I want, but when I'm also then struggling to get the audio I want because I've set a mic up at one point in the room and it's not really as easy to move that around, right? But when I move around the room, you know, that mic has been set up based on the position I was in before. This is particularly the case if I'm setting things up in the live room in the studio and I'm doing a video that is very specifically about mic placement and stuff. It's been quite frustrating not being able to just narrate what I'm doing as I do it, and instead basically having to record like video of me setting things up in the live room and then do like a voiceover narration section later. Or I have to like really fully pre-plan the video, which I quite often do when I'm doing more complex videos like that. Or in the case of one of the pieces of content I filmed with James, for example, what we were actually doing that day was we were doing my first time recording drums. But the whole point was that essentially it was my first time recording drums and James was going to be giving me loads of advice. So we were setting up a drum kit to record whilst talking to each other, right? You can't really plan that kind of content in that kind of detail to make it easier to set up your shots. So it's a lot easier to just be narrating it as you go and to just have something clipped to you that is constantly recording everything you say. So that way, at least I only have to worry about making sure that the camera is constantly capturing shots. So that's the kind of content where I'm going to be using lapel mic, because I'm going to be moving around a lot. I'm going to be using both my hands, so I don't really want to hold a mic. Anyway, that's why I have these mics. Because of that, a lot of the time, because it's going to be for that YouTube style content, that longer form content, where, you know, it's going to be really important that I just have the audio files like saved in a separate place, and I've got as many backups as possible on the audio, because a lot of the time it would be content where it'd be really difficult. I wouldn't be able to re-record it. If something went wrong with the audio, I'd be screwed. And something did go wrong with the audio multiple times for that drum video. And the only reason why I still have a video that will be usable and editable, that I can actually get something out of, is because we had 2 fail-safes involved. Because 1, we had the onboard recording activated on our microphones. So I had the onboard audio for both of us, except for the bit where James accidentally unplugged his microphone, in which case then I had no audio coming out of his mic at all for that. But then 2, right? The audio being recorded out of these microphones at all that we were reliant on was being recorded into my laptop, into Logic separately. And as such, we still had the camera audio available to us. So if I need it for the moments when I've lost the audio of James talking when his microphone wasn't plugged in right, or when he accidentally muted himself, because he did also accidentally mute himself at one point. And we had that. So I was able to relax and just enjoy actually learning about drums as well, because it wasn't too difficult for us to handle just moving the camera around. The other time I would use these a lot is if I want to record audio on my phone from now on. Whenever I'm recording video with audio on my phone, I will probably plug these in to do those kinds of videos from now on. I'll probably just use one of these rather than using the full-blown lapel. And actually that's how people really use them a lot, is that they just clip this to something and then they hold it in front of themselves like it's a handheld mic. Kind of become like the go-to way to use these microphones now, but it's not remotely how they were designed to be used. But like if you do actually hold this out in front of your mouth, you do get a slightly better audio quality in terms of the bass response. And especially if you're not going to be mixing this in any way, then using the proximity effect to get that bass response instead is a good way to just quickly improve the overall quality of your audio there. So I don't know, maybe I'll become one of those people where I do end up clipping this to a thing and just holding it in front. But I probably won't, because most of the time when I'm recording content like that, like I want to have my hands free. I don't want to have to hold a microphone. In terms of the actual audio quality out of these, I would say that if you're just looking for good quality audio for videos where, you know, if you've got a tripod set up and you're recording it and then you're treating your audio separately anyway, don't get one of these. You know, they're not expensive, these Rode mics, in terms of, but like they're not cheap mics. You can get cheaper mics that offer a better audio quality overall, I would say, than these, if you've already got an interface and all of that stuff set up. Or even if you've not got an interface, like I would say using something like a Yeti mic or other similar USB mics. A lot of the reason why people use these, I think, is because you can just connect them up to your phone and stuff, and then you can just clip them to something and they're really quite small and diddy. I might start using these sometimes when I'm doing content where I'm recording the audio out of Logic on OBS, just because sometimes I can have issues with trying to balance the audio well on those and trying to position the microphone in a way where it's picking up my voice well, and then also balance that against, because OBS just puts everything together into one video file with one audio file. I can't separate them out and mix them later. So if I haven't gotten the balance right actually on the inputs into OBS, which I've got them set pretty well right now, but every now and then I do something stupid, like I turn away from the mic massively while I'm talking and I'm actively playing really loud audio out of the computer, and there's nothing I can do to recover that. And I don't realize I've done it at the time, so I don't repeat myself, so I've just lost that bit of important information I was just saying. These would solve that problem, just because then I could have the audio of me just be completely separate from the audio of the computer. In terms of whether you should get these or another model, I can't really tell you which model you should get. As far as I'm concerned, when I was looking at which model to get, there was very little to choose between them. You'd probably be happy with any of the many models of this style of wireless lapel mic you can get. Anywho, that is all for this video, guys, because I think I've gone through everything I wanted to say about them. I'd be interested to hear any opinions you guys have about things if you've got these mics. If you enjoyed this video, well then actually, I mean, you might enjoy my content in general. This is a little bit of a steer away from my content in general because this has got literally nothing to do with music, really, this video. But I do a lot of audio engineering style content. So you might want to consider hitting that subscribe button. But I know that's a big decision to make. You wouldn't want to subscribe and unsubscribe. So do feel free to check out some other content on this channel before you do so. There'll be something recommended on the end screen for you. If you want to follow me on all of my various socials and see me using these mics more, then you can do that by following all of the links in the description, including links down there to where you can find my artist profiles and stream my original music. But last but not least, if you want to support me with money, then you can do that by checking out my Buy Me a Coffee account, where you can send one-off donations if you just want to say cool video mate, or you can join one of my memberships and then you get access to extra behind-the-scenes style content. Okay, that's all for this video, guys. I shall see you guys next time with some more fun, actually music-related content. Bye! Maybe I should